What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today it is Mock Draft Monday, JK. Mock Draft Tuesday. We're going to have 2 rounds, no trades, 1 exception, and it's going to be great. You're probably wondering, why the hell am I wearing a headband? If you guys do not already follow me on Twitter, which you can through the link tree below or through all the nice little links that are below my face and below my board, as well as being able to get, some nice goodies there at UnderDog Fantasy and Olipop. But I ended up saying because Baker beat the Eagles, I am going to wear a headband because people say I look like Baker Mayfield, including you guys. So I don't know how to take that, whether that's a positive or a negative. However, it is what it is. So yes, I actually have a Finsta called Official Baker Mayfield where I just randomly post shit. So, I would prefer you to follow the company Instagram, but, if you guys want to follow my Finsta, you could do that as well. But basically, horns down. I love Baker Mayfield coming out. Kind of look like him. Always wanted to be a quarterback, and at a 5'8" to 5'9" stature, not going to be very possible. So let's get right into this. Let's have fun. This is gonna be a live mock draft. My board is finally updated for being able to take out some of my bone crushing returners to school, but that just means we'll be able to have some fun talking about them in the 2025 mock drafts to come soon, as well as a lot of the individual team, how to fix a team ultimate draft guide coming up, as well as we're going to be doing a whole lot of stuff, including all 22 tape studies that are going to be starting most likely tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Go to the Discord, again, through that link tree below. And you know what? If you guys miss it, I do have now a premium membership for you guys to use for when I start uploading them. I'll let you know when I start doing that so that you guys get the maximum day one experience. Let's get right into this, though. Chicago Bears, we're trading away Caleb Williams. That's the one caveat. I said there was one exception. It's the one exception. The Bears are going to trade Caleb. And if it's 2 rounds, we're going to get a second-round pick from it. The asking price right now is like 2 seconds and a third-round pick or a day 3 pick. I will probably just do 2 seconds. And one of them's going to not be this year, obviously. And when you look at the teams that should be quarterback hungry, that are not in top 3 quarterback range, you honestly do look right now at the Giants. That would be very intriguing since they're the ones who, kind of traded away from Justin Fields. Don't think they're going to pull the trigger on that, but because you'd probably have to have him sit for a year. Doesn't make very much sense. But you got the Falcons here. New regime coming in. They're going to want their quarterback. They're going to want their guy. Not really within range. And I don't think the Bears would actually trade back to 8. Doesn't make sense. I mean, I heard that Mel Kiper was saying, they might trade the 8th overall pick. Let's pipe down. I don't know if it's that valuable. Then you could also look potentially at the Raiders here, the Broncos, but the Broncos don't have a second-round pick. You could even look right now at the Saints, but the Saints don't really have very much draft capital after the fact. So you're really limited. You really are limited in terms of the teams that you can trade with. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I might want to just throw them there just because it would be really cool. Mason Rudolph, we saw just what a minute increase in the offensive firepower could do for our team. But, if you're the Bears, you want to trade with a team you're going to get the best return on investment for. And I do think that a squad like the Falcons would be very much open to sending some good picks your way. And so we're going to take advantage of that. So this is going to be my one exception. It is what it is. Maybe it will be, a second and a third, but that's not going to affect this mock draft because there's going to be 0 more trades during this mock. So there you go. The Bears sent Justin to Atlanta. Caleb Williams is the number 1 overall pick. Financially, it just makes sense. They are, now resetting the quarterback time frame. Caleb Williams has similar strengths to Justin Fields. He has very similar upside to Justin Fields. He actually has higher upside, but just maybe not as strong, but very elusive at the same time. Great playmaker. He's already working with a quarterback coach. He's not even taking time off really in the offseason, which I do appreciate. This is one of the most pivotal times for me in the offseason draft process because of the fact that you get to see the true character of these players. For me, with guys like Isaiah McGuire, who I loved, it's where I ended up becoming not so much of a fan of him because I saw the way he was training was not the way that I think a high-end prospect should be training. Versus when you got to see Jordan Davis, for example, who I was lower on, because he was genuinely kind of a fat ass, and just got to call it out as it is. And then he worked his tail off in the offseason, ended up being a combine monster. This is the time where I really see players show their true colors. So stay with me. It's going to be a crazy ride, but Caleb Williams is already showing the positive traits as in he's not sitting back saying, oh, I'm great. He's already working. I appreciate that. So some good notes there for Caleb Williams. He has some concerns in terms of not being a CEO button-up type, but I mean, for me, I think I'm willing to pass those for a great talent on the field. Now, Washington, I very well might opt for moving down in the real draft because I do think this team still needs a little bit more than what 1 first and then 2 seconds will give them. And I think offensive line is a great way to build. I don't believe that, it's a 50-50 for me whether they actually move down or if somehow, some way the Bears, they could probably convince them to move up. I don't know. It's a weird spot to be for the franchise because I want to use, like I did in my yesterday mock the mock, that image of Caleb Williams in a Commander's uni because it is clean as all get out. But I don't force that. I love when other people force it for their narratives, but I'm not going to force it for mine. Drake Maye is essentially Justin Herbert at Oregon. He has a ton of potential, very inconsistent, and you really have to hit it right for Drake Maye to be successful. But if you hit it right, it's probably going to be better than any of the other quarterbacks in the class. The problem is you need to hit it right. Sure, you can say the same about every other quarterback, but I do think the floor is a lot lower. I also don't think I have Drake Maye graded slightly higher than I did Sam Howell at UNC, so there is that. But Drake Maye, he's a good quarterback. I don't think it would be the guy who I take for the Commanders. It would be Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has an issue reading over the middle, but when he does read properly, which again, most of the quarterbacks in this class have an issue in terms of their overall reading of the field, he can put it on a dime, which I love to death. This is a guy who had the number 1 or number 2 highest uncatchable throw rate just a couple years ago. Huge negative. I was like, I'll never, ever want Jaden Daniels on my team. But you know what? He worked his tail off. You can tell because he throws the ball completely differently than he did. Look at his uncatchable throw rate now. Sure as hell is not near that 50% mark, and he is throwing absolute dimes to players who are running 20 plus miles per hour with really high precision. So for me, I love the transition of Jaden Daniels. It's why you can never write off a player. When you see them working, you can truly believe that they are going to continue progressing. And for me, that is enough to get Jaden Daniels to be my QB2. He has issues, but I think I'm willing to work with those because his biggest flaw, which was his uncatchable throw rate, was something that he was able to fix in college. I think he can fix the rest as time progresses in the NFL. Great athlete as well. At pick 3, y'all know exactly that I want to go after Drake Maye. But you know what? We can buck that narrative. Let's buck the narrative. Let's have fun this week. Drake Maye is what I do every single week for the Patriots. So don't get me wrong. It's a pick I think is correct. But we have a new regime coming into New England. And they're going to be like, we could get a new QB here, or we can get the best player in the class. I want to test this out because y'all been asking me to do this, and I'm going to give it to you. I am. We're going to skip out on Drake Maye. We're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. here. Also because it gives me more leeway to do something else for the Cardinals. So Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the Patriots. Again, I think quarterback's the wisest move, but we also have to explore other alternatives. I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in the class, complete receiver, great build at over 6'4", 215 pounds, just naturally a smooth route runner. There's nothing wrong with Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe he could be a little better after the catch, but, again, this is not Jesus on the field. He probably is like 10 points away from being Jesus on the field, but he's a damn good player. He's able to make, bum-ass Kyle McCord look good. He didn't really, but he made him look as good as possible. Marvin Harrison Jr., this team has had an absolutely atrocious time drafting wide receivers. So usually when you're up this high, just cut your losses and draft the player that everybody knows is going to be good. Don't go to your own evaluation and say, oh, let's see if we can get some value down the board. Hasn't worked. Know your weaknesses, know your strengths. This team has done actually a pretty damn good job of drafting value quarterbacks. Maybe they're not the elite quarterbacks. Tom Brady was, but when you look at Bailey Zappi, that's very good value. You got a player who could start for your team in the 4th round. So use that ability, get a value quarterback or sign another one because you can actually pick up starter quality down the line. You haven't done anything in terms of the wide receiver department. Get something that's actually going to work. in one of your areas of weakness. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be there for the next decade or two. It's going to be a home run hit. At pick number 4 for the Cardinals, we are going to be going after an offensive tackle here. Could go Malik Neighbors, absolutely, but DJ Humphries, nasty leg injury. He's already pretty much on the chopping block as it is. I would prefer to go a right tackle here over, one of these more athletic left tackles. However, I can't really say Olu Fashanu is not going to go before Talise Fuaga. Same thing with Joe Alt. You can't complain about either one. It just really depends on what flavor of ice cream you like. Do you want the more high floor guy with maybe a little bit lower ceiling and a little bit less power? Or do you want Olu, who's going to be balls to the wall, extreme athlete, and, could be probably the best tackle in the NFL? I'm going to go after the higher upside because I love the athleticism. I think it works really well with, an offense that does use a lot of movement. And for me, that's the way I would prefer to go with a mobile quarterback that's a little bit smaller. So, it is what it is. But that left tackle spot, pretty desperate. And you could put Paris Johnson there. But the issue that I ran into, because I love the idea of going tackle with that second pick. The problem is we ain't getting one here at 27. That ain't happening. We got the Cowboys ahead of us who are going to be wanting to take a tackle. You got, technically, I don't think the Eagles are no longer in the race there, but even the Dolphins could be in the market for it. The Steelers, too many teams that want them in front of you now. So unfortunately, you have to go earlier to strike gold at that tackle spot. Pick number 5 for the Los Angeles Chargers. You got Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, Brock Bowers, and you got Drake Maye here, but we obviously ain't taking Drake Maye. We are going to look and select probably, you can't go wrong with either of these guys. Brock Bowers, incredible. Malik Neighbors, incredible. I always go Brock Bowers for this team. So again, just to change things up, make things exciting for me as well as you, we're going to go Malik Neighbors out of LSU. Drake Maye's slipping a little bit. We're going to probably stop it right here, but a little bit more about Malik. Some people put him as the best wide receiver they've ever graded. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's increased his route running ability over the past year. Always got to give credit where credit is due there. He's not exactly into the blue chip tier for me just yet. And I love seeing the fact that he does develop and continues to get better. That is a massive plus for me, which is why I'm comfortable taking him here in the 5th overall pick. But I think he still needs to learn how to run sharper cuts a little bit better. He rounds them out a little too much, which doesn't get the separation that I desire. I have kind of like a thing for guys who can really cut on a dime. I don't really think Malik Neighbors offers that, but everything else is phenomenal. He is a really good player. And, having him there at 15th or 16th on my board is honestly a huge compliment. It is, because I don't like grading receivers very highly. I don't. I have a very rigorous scale for receivers. It is almost impossible to get over an 80. Very few receivers do it. So Malik Neighbors, just under that, incredible player. Incredible player. So at pick number 6 for the Giants, I was going to look at, potentially going after Malik Neighbors, but Drake Maye slipped. It could be Jaden Daniels slipping, could be Drake Maye. Doesn't matter. A quarterback slipped here. And so we're going to be drafting Drake Maye out of North Carolina. Again, no trades apart from that Justin trade because, that would actually affect the mock draft. So Drake Maye is going to be going to New York. It's a great spot for him to sit for a year as well. And I think he can learn from a little bit better of a game manager like Daniel Jones. It's a great spot for him. It really is. You have a developing roster, and then Evan Neal is going to be an extra year into his career at that point, so he'll be developed. Then you could get a wide receiver as well in the next round to continue developing. At pick 7 for the Tennessee Titans, it's Joe Alt or nothing at this point. You have Brock Bowers, and that would be a great choice as well. I think that would be the next best. But something about having a bookend tackle that is someone you can rely on 99.5% of the time versus, 95% or even worse with Andre Dillard. That 4.5% difference is everything. So for me, I think he also complements Peter Skoronski as well as anybody in the world. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and take him there to the Titans. At pick number 8, the Falcons got Justin Fields there with their 2nd round pick. Just to recap what's already happened for those of mine who are listening to the audio version, we have Caleb Williams going to the Bears, Justin Fields going to the Falcons for a 2nd round pick this year and next. Jane Daniels to the Commanders, MHJ to the Patriots, Olu Fashanu to the Cardinals, Malik Neighbors to the Chargers, Drake Maye to the Giants, and then Joe Alt to the Titans. So we're back with the Falcons. It's right now down to wide receiver as well as edge rusher. Those are the two positions you need to go for. This class got thinner and thinner at edge rusher. I mean, we lost the majority of all day two edge rushers, and seeing if they've updated it, and they have. Very excited to see that. Please have my boy. Of course, they don't have Xavier Thomas on here. It is what it is. But with the loss of JT Tuimoloau especially, that really was a kick in the balls. Just got to call it out as it is. It hurts to watch JT just disappear like that, because he was one of those guys, early day two, late day one, that I was excited to see what team wanted to draft him and develop him. He's deciding to say, hey, I'm going to be an actual first-round pick next year. Got to give him credit where credit's due. This is a really good top of the class, but it does kind of tank pretty quickly. So looking at the options that are best available, I think this team's going to value someone over 260 pounds. Bud Dupree's gone. That's going to be the role that you want. You have Arnold Ebiketie, who's going to be on the little bit lighter side. I think he's still an excellent player, and it's going to be a valuable asset to this team. For me, it's down to Braylon Trice and Jared Verse. And Latu, absolutely. I think Latu is in that consideration, because they do like a little bit of that freakiness in terms of the athleticism. Still not there with Latu. TBD. We're going to do it. And once those all 22 tape studies come out, which again, you can sign up for the memberships, but I'll let y'all know when to do so you at least have some videos to watch right away. We'll get down to the bottom of it. I'm going to go Jared Verse here. I think it's him or Dallas Turner that'll be the first edge off the board. I love Dallas Turner a little bit more than Jared, but Dallas Turner is in the 240 range. It doesn't fit the type of player that I think this team might want to replace. Of course, Smith's gone, so you could see a shift in the ideology, but I don't think anybody's going to complain about Jared Verse going to the Falcons. I don't think you're going to complain about a really damn good edge rusher with good size. At pick number 9 for the Chicago Bears, we have Caleb Williams. We got a second-round pick for Justin Fields. Woo woo. And now I'm looking at Rome Odunze because I feel like that's just the instant shoe-in. Brock Bowers gets me so excited because of the fact that, he is, in my opinion, a generational player. But we're going to pass on Brock. We are. I think they do opt for a receiver. And with Omega Ibuka dipping on the class, it does start to make it a little bit thinner. It does. And I think this class started to get a little bit overrated. There's still some very good players in here, but it is a bit overrated. Rome Odunze is going to be the selection. I tip my cap to anybody who plays with a punctured lung and a broken rib. He has a wide receiver X build, 6'3", 210 plus pounds, and he's a great athlete. I love the way he runs his fade routes because he truly can sell it, which means that I think it's translatable to other routes as well. Still developing in that category. He's not a great route runner. Apart from that one example, and he does have some really good hands. He knows how to get up there. I think it's a project worth working on. And Caleb Williams, I think, could totally take full advantage of that ability. So the Bears go Rome Odunze at 9. At pick 10 for the New York Jets. Hard to say no to Brock Bowers, but you got to go offensive tackle for this team. You do have an aging quarterback who's trying to make a final push. The offensive line's not that great. Talise Fuaga is going to be the shoe-in for me. At pick number 11 for the Minnesota Vikings, I kind of want to see the quarterback slip. I do want to see the quarterback slip here. So Michael Penix, guy who I would consider. I do think that I want to see an alternate universe where they can get Kirk for a year, or else they just want to target someone like J.J. McCarthy or Joe Milton down the line. I just don't know if, especially with the age, 6-year senior, 3 season-ending injuries, ending off on a poor note, even though I really like what Michael can bring to the table. Something about it just says I need to try to push these guys more down the board to make it more realistic for y'all. So I'm looking at edge rusher and defensive interior. I think the D-line needs help. Jerzon Newton, that was the idea from Brett Coleman. And I saw that in his way too early mock draft, which was just a couple players that was listed on a Twitter tweet. So not really a ton of thought going into there, but still very intriguing. This team does need some help on the D-line. I would say Dallas Turner might be a guy who I really get excited about. Could be their Danielle Hunter type, but I hope they bring back Danielle. And so I'm going to go out of pure realism here. I think Latu, if the medicals check out, that's a big if, because he had to go away from Washington because of the fact he had a neck injury. He will be the selection here. 265, freakish build. If you can get Danielle Hunter to come back, that's going to be someone who is well worth taking and letting train up Latu. So Latu ends up going to the Vikings. At pick 12 for the Broncos, another team that could really use a quarterback. I don't know if the teams are going to get so excited that they draft one here. I think the Broncos could be moving back in the real draft and then selecting one of these guys. It's what I did last week because you don't have a second round pick. I think it would be very smart to do so. I think it's a little too early to take a QB. I think this might be a good landing spot for a veteran. Could go Brock Bowers even here. That'd be quite intriguing. But I'm going to actually go for an edge rusher. Again, top heavy class. It really is. You got guys in the first round. You're not going to be finding any good value past that. So I'm trying my best to push down the quarterbacks here. You got Chop Robinson, you got Braylon Trice, and you got Dallas Turner. Those are the three remaining players who I think will be day one super studs. Same thing with Jonah Ellis. I love him, but I just doubt that he'd go this high. For the Broncos, I think they go after BPA, and that's going to be Dallas Turner. He really does play much larger than he is. He plays like he's 252, 260 pounds at 242. That, to me, is a massive plus because of the fact that he maintains his speed and his athleticism while still being able to generate power very well. My number 4 player in the class, had to show some love to him there. At pick number 13 for the Vegas Raiders, I am trying to push Brock Bowers a little bit more down the board since I have seen people also push him down the board. This team in the market for a QB could be where you do see Michael Penix, but again, could be a team where they wait till pick 44 to take a swing on a quarterback, right? And there's a lot of issues on this team, and like AP could very well say, I want to roll one more year with my quarterback AOC if I can't get my guy Jaden Daniels. It is possible. And I think because of the fact that he is used to that mobility, it's more likely that Bo Nix would be the quarterback taken over Michael Penix. So, take it as you will. Bo Nix hasn't had the injury history Michael Penix has. He's also been in college a year less than Michael Penix has. And he also came from a worse program or, similarly crap program that Michael Penix did, and then ended up ascending into a really damn good quarterback there at Vegas. I think Bo Nix actually might go before Michael Penix, especially for the medicals. This might be the spot for him because this team really is kind of desperate for a QB. I've been trying to go away from that recently, but this is a spot where I can feel comfortable about a QB as well with Bo Nix, not Michael Penix. So we'll go Bo Nix there. Test out the waters. I know that's going to irritate some people because nobody likes Bo Nix for some reason. Don't get that. I think that narrative is going to change in a couple weeks when we go to Mobile. So very excited for that. At pick 14, we have the New Orleans Saints, and this is going to be, he shouldn't be here, but, it is what it is. This is going to be Brock Bowers. I mean, could go offensive tackle here, but you have to go BPA sometimes. Brock Bowers is going to be a supreme weapon on the squad. Tight end's not even that good in the first place for him, so he's going to essentially act as a tackle, great blocker. Shouldn't be there, but it is what it is. At pick 15 for the Indianapolis Colts, some really good options on the board. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry might be one of their sneakier targets. Cooper DeJean, top tier defensive back that I love to send to them. But I want to test a theory out. You've had, I believe, 4 edge rushers that have had 7+ sacks this year. You don't have a dog. You don't have an edge one. And I've been hearing it a lot. Again, in a top-heavy edge class, you might want to go for one of these guys like Braylon Trice here. 274 and 6'4". He's a pressure machine, great speed to power. He needs to get a little bit more flexible with the bend, but this is a guy that I think could complement Kwity Paye for the future and be that true edge one you're searching for. I haven't done it. This is kind of an exploratory mock draft. That's why my trades mock drafts are usually bigger than these, but it is what it is. I can complain all I want, but Braylon Trice is going to be my experimental pick here. In honor of Bring the Juice podcast, they wanted to go after edge rushers, so I am going to go after edge. I stole Brock Bowers from you here, so at least I owe you testing out a theory there. At pick 16 for the Seattle Seahawks, there's going to be a new regime coming in. Most of the time, they like to take a little bit more of a conservative first pick, and they're still going to get a damn good player here with Jerzon Johnny Newton. Defensive interior, you're going to be needing at least one of those, even if you keep Leonard Williams. And this is a way of disarming potential other teams in your own division with an excellent player. Jerzon Newton is a bona fide blue chip player, has a ton of upside, 295, and can even play some edge rusher there for you too. So I love the versatility. At pick 17 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, some people have been taking tackle for this team, which is weird, but I get excited every time I can take Kool-Aid McKinstry to this squad. He reminds me a lot of what Tyson Campbell had, and he's going to get a re-eval soon. I wasn't as crazy about him with my first re-eval as I was last year, but that's why he's here at 17 and not taken earlier. At pick 18 for the Cincinnati Bengals, this is going to be a tackle 10 out of 10 times. You can go J.C. Latham or Amarius Mims. I don't think it really matters which one is which. I hate to do this to my Steelers, but I kind of want to give a middle finger to any team that is in the division of said team that I am picking for. And a great way to do that is by saying, you want Broderick Jones to pair up with Amarius again? Nah, not going to happen, Chief. So we're going to go Amarius Mims here out of Georgia, right tackle. I've been hearing some news or some push for an edge rusher. Very intriguing. It's an intriguing idea. But, when offensive line is a need and you have proper value, I don't think any other position, apart from maybe quarterback, is worth taking. Like, there's nothing that you should take more than a needed offensive tackle if you have the right value, unless it's a quarterback that is proper value. At pick 19 for the Los Angeles Rams could actually be in the market for a Michael Penix. They could be. I don't know if they would be, though. I haven't seen the Rams draft a quarterback since Jared Goff. So, to be fair, they went after Stetson last year in the 4th. But they look like they're trying to go more for value than, try to hit a home runner with their top pick. So I am looking at J.C. Latham as a potential left tackle prospect for this team. I would like that quite a bit. But also, you do have elite tier corners on the board. You also have elite tier defensive linemen on the board. You also have Chop Robinson on the board, which I've shamed before with people taking him. But that's because there have been better compliments on the board. I still said this guy's going to be a very good player, and Byron Young could be a good teacher as well. He's been very successful using just pure speed. So I think this would be a very unique and very intriguing option. Now, you could look at defensive interior. I would not blame them if they end up targeting Byron Murphy or T'Vondre Sweat. I like both of those guys equally, but you can't go wrong. I think in round 2, going after a corner is a smarter move. And, you could go full offense or full defense if you want to. There's multiple routes you can go. I'm trying to get myself out of taking tackle because I don't know. They actually might be more of a Jordan Morgan team because they need a pure left tackle than go J.C. Latham and try to switch them. When you do have that option, I think they would probably try to opt for the more natural position guy. I'm going to go for this team going after the best player available in terms of upside, and that's Chop Robinson. The dude needs some mentorship, but he's going to get there, especially if Aaron Donald sticks around and teaches him. It's going to be the right move. For the Steelers, I am going to be drafting J.C. Latham. Like, that was kind of the big debate I think the Rams should go J.C. Latham at the same time. The right tackle spot kind of filled. So, you'd probably be opting for the left tackle that is viewed similarly to JC. The Steelers, I'm kicking Broderick Jones to left tackle, kicking Dan Moore to the curb or to guard, and then letting J.C. Latham take some reps at right tackle. So technically, the Steelers go tackle back-to-back years. I don't really care what the value of the other positions are. If you have an offensive lineman on the board, you take them. It's a good tackle class. Take them early and often because you don't have to actually try to search for value down the board because you're getting good value in the first, which is kind of rare for the offensive tackle position. At pick 21 for the Dolphins, another team that could have really used some good value right there. I think this team, honestly, the Dolphins, could try to make a trade up in the real draft. If Brock Bowers is sitting here at pick 12, this is a team I could totally see moving up and saying, this is the guy that we're dreaming of. I would love to hear from my Dolphins fans there. I do know you guys already brought it up, so I kind of know the answer to that. But, I think that might be the trade for tomorrow. We'll check it out. We'll see what happens. So at pick 21, though, the Dolphins, I think they need defensive back help. They need tight end help, and they need a left tackle for the future who can play guard in the short run. That is literally Jordan Morgan's MO. So Jordan Morgan will be the selection. Again, he's going to train to be that left tackle after Terron Armstead leaves, but he's going to play in the short run as a guard because you have 3 interior offensive linemen who are up for contract. At pick 22 for the Philadelphia Eagles, a team I like taking tackle for until they ended up having, RIP Jason Kelce, but Lane Johnson said he had a couple good years left in him. So the options available, Terrion Arnold. Darius Slay's still there for a year, but I doubt that he's actually going to continue playing at a starting rate. You do have Keely Ringo, and you also have Eli Ricks. Could bring in Terrion Arnold into that equation as well. I do think edge rusher could be on the board, but man, we siphoned the hell out of those edge rushers, didn't we? We did a great job doing that. Wide receiver wise, there's still some good ones on the board. I just don't think that Howie's going to draft a wide receiver on round 1 to draft a wide receiver 3. Feels like something they do in the 3rd round. So what's the right position to target for the Eagles? I think the value's there at corner. I really do. You do need a corner. You need a safety number 3 as well eventually, because I do think that you will end up just, having Reed as well as Sidney, but I don't think Kevin Byard is going to stay. Like, after his performance, I don't think he's going to stay. So looking at the corners available, Terrion Arnold also can play slot reps, which is going to be positive at that 6-foot frame. But to me, he's the number 1 corner in the class. It's great value. And again, you're trying to go a year ahead of where you think they should be. And in a year, I think they should draft a corner. Therefore, I think it's smart to draft Terrion Arnold here. He's very aggressive. He is just extremely fluid as an athlete. And, he needs to upgrade a couple parts of his game, but he's a better version of Eli Ricks. I had very similar grades on Eli Ricks, just worse in every category. Eli is extremely lengthy, as well as 6'2", but Terrion Arnold is a better athlete, and I think he's a better processor. Nate Wiggins, another great option for the team, but I'm going to go after Terrion Arnold because of the way the board fell. I do think they could end up trading back and trying to get some good value, though. At pick 23 for the Houston Texans, hard to deny going after Nate Wiggins here and getting a nice corner too for the team, but I am going to go after defensive interior. This team has just been balling out. And, Byron Murphy or Tavondre Sweat would both be great options. Looking at the board, even Mason Smith declared, which is kind of wild to me. I thought he would actually return, but it is what it is. I do see a lot more of a Byron Murphy prototype with guys down the board if you want to go after multiple defensive interiors. Not many guys who have a Tavondre Sweat build. So I'm going to go after Tavondre Sweat, 362 pounds. I think he had over 30 pressures this year as well, which is phenomenal because he increased his ability as a pass rusher. One of my favorite guys coming into the season and ended up continuing to ascend to where he is now. At pick number 24 for the Cowboys, could very well be looking for a new coach, maybe a new DC as well. You naturally are going to lose when you go into nickel when it is 12 personnel. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. But the Cowboys need to look at left tackle, center, even defensive interior is a good position to go after. Defensive back, with the value that's here. I'm going to look at the offensive line again. It's been the identity of the Cowboys for quite a while. So I do think Graham Barton is just the perfect pick. He can play left tackle, but I do think he'll be eventually moved to center. At pick 25 for the Green Bay Packers, who very well continue to prove me right by saying this team doesn't need very much, and I'm glad to see that they're piecing it all together. So cheers to LaFleur for doing that. But if Cooper DeJean's on the board, y'all know that's the player I want to go after. Nate Wiggins, though, might be worth it. It just depends. Do you think that the corner value in round 2 is going to be better than the safety value? I'm trying to take safeties a little bit higher, so I'm going to take the guy who's a little bit more versatile in Cooper DeJean. Can also be an instant returner, just overall a really good day one impact there for Green Bay. At pick 26 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, people have talked about going secondary, interior offensive line as well. I could see them actually going after Troy Fautanu here. I think I did that in my mock draft last week. Edge rusher, certainly on the board for him. But I think that the best value available is going after Nate Wiggins. It's hard to think at 58 you're going to find someone remotely close to that defensive back value. So we are going to be going after Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. At pick 27, Nate Wiggins would have been kind of my ideal pick here for the Cardinals. Also shows you that I do not like forcing picks for Arizona, even though I do have some very vocal Arizona fans, so I do tend to lean towards wanting to give you guys a very, very good draft, as I do every single team. But defense needs to be fixed. And looking at the defensive backs, I'm going to wait for round 2 at pick 35. I don't know, because I do have some teams that could be looking for defensive interior, if I'm going to find somebody who is really that talented down the board. I'm going to go Byron Murphy the second, blue chip player out of Texas. He's number 13 on my board. He's above where I took Tavondre Sweat, even though Tavondre got taken before, but that is based on his frame. Tavondre, at the same time, is at 32 versus 13 for Byron Murphy. He's my interior defensive lineman 1. I just don't think many people are going to value him at that size. Or, I mean, not that size, but nobody's going to value him as an IDL 1. 310 pounds. He's going to be a combine monster. I see some flashes of Jalen Carter, which gets me very, very excited. This team needs help on the defensive interior, and they got a great player there in Byron Murphy. Kansas City, I think we all know exactly where I'm going with this pick. If Brian Thomas is here, he's going to be the player. He's going to be either the player for the Chiefs or for the Bills. So let's dictate what happens to Buffalo. Brian Thomas goes to KC. At pick 29 for the Buffalo Bills, Troy Franklin is here. That could be the guy who I end up going after. Could go after a safety as well. You have Cam Kinchens on the board, Tyler Nubin as well. I've been wanting to get these guys higher and higher because I just don't think the safety class is very, very good. It's just the truth. So it's Cam Kinchens or Tyler Nubin. I do want to go after Tyler Nubin. I normally go wide receiver for the Bills. Went Emeka Ibuka last week. RIP to that idea. Ended up going back to Ohio State. But we're going to go Tyler Nubin there for Buffalo. At pick 30 for the Detroit Lions, I think corner is a very smart move for this team. The offense is doing a pretty damn good job. So is the defense at that matter. I would say actually a dark horse pick. And it's a player that y'all should start looking at. Jonah Ellis. Jonah's my number 30 player in the draft. I love him. I have him comped to a miniature Dallas Turner. Even though technically he's a bigger version of Dallas Turner at 4 pounds heavier, he plays very similarly to Dallas Turner. He's kind of just the slightly worse version. Well, not slightly. He's probably a full tier below Dallas Turner. But that's because Dallas Turner is my number 4 player in the class. So, he's a very, very talented player. Shout out to Javon Solomon, by the way. He might be taken in round 2. He's a fun player to watch. His edge bend is incredible. But this team needs defensive interior corner as well as edge rusher. And I think Jonah Ellis is that dark horse. A lot of people might want Chris Braswell more, but Jonah Ellis to me is a superior product. He's going to complement Aiden Hutchinson so damn well. He plays like he's 260 pounds, similar to Dallas Turner, and he has an unending motor. Caught my eye very, very early on. I said he should be a first-round talent, and you know what? That's exactly what he's going to be. Jonah Ellis out of Utah. At pick number 31 for the San Francisco 49ers, offensive line's been the way I've always gone for this team. And Kingsley Suamataia is here. It just makes sense to have a swing tackle who can play both left and right when Trent Williams is closing in on the end of his career, and right tackle is the short-term need. So it's a very smart move in the short run and the long. At pick 32 for the Baltimore Ravens, I honestly think I want to change it up. I always go offensive line for this team, but Troy Franklin fits exactly what I'd want to replace Odell Beckham Jr., and this team's working very, very well with that mold. So I'm going to go for Troy Franklin out of Oregon, my number 35 player in the class. At pick 33, we're getting into round 2 for the Carolina Panthers. We've gone after wide receiver for this team plenty of times, and it's not going to change. Keon Coleman's slipping a little bit. It happens. He's actually not a very exciting player. He really is just kind of a jump catch threat who is, solid at, being a one-on-one player. So I like Keon Coleman. He is still a top 25 player for me. He just ended up getting back to where he should have been. He regressed to the mean. He got exciting. He got super hot, but he is a 6'4" X-build wide receiver who, he's not fitting a role of Troy Franklin, and he's not fitting a role of Brian Thomas. He fits a very specific role, and, for a team that kind of needs to just get talent, that's where he can carve out that perfect role for himself. He didn't fit the roles of the other teams, so this is the first mock where Keon Coleman slips out of the first. It's not a crazy idea. It is a little bit out there. Hence, he's my number 21 player in the class. Of course, it's a little bit out there. But he's a player that, he's an X-build wide receiver. It's hard to find those on a consistent basis. But at the same time, he doesn't have the versatility of role to fit the role that some of these other teams would find best for their offenses. So we get lucky and have him slip here to 33. At pick 34, would have been great for the New England Patriots to just get Keon Coleman and Marvin Harrison Jr., but you can get Michael Penix, you can get J.J. McCarthy, you can get Joe Milton. I know that third name is not going to resonate with many of you, but we can actually end up getting Michael Penix here and getting our quarterback in round 2. I think that's a smart idea. So the Patriots pass on a quarterback in round 1 and still get technically a round 1 quarterback. Again, 60-year player, 3 season-ending injuries, 2 years of legitimate production. He had actually that one hot year there at IU, but there is a past. There is a history there. Glad to see, though, that Michael Penix has all the upside in the world, enough to still get past all those negatives and get there at 34. At pick 35 for the Cardinals, we've already gone after defensive interior. We've also already gone after offensive tackle. So looking at the other options, I think corner is the next best thing. I love Kalen King, but I think he is more suited for a team that has a little flexibility in terms of the role he can play. I want to go after the high upside in Kamari Lassiter here. Could go after edge rusher for sure. Could even go after another defensive interior. But, Kamari Lassiter is going to be a combine monster. This team needs some more help on the cornerback room, and he is at least 6 foot. So, a little bit on the lighter side, but he does know how to hold it down. He plays a lot larger than what he is. So, we're going to be going after Kamari Lassiter there, 6 foot, 180 pounds, but he will be flying in the 4.2s, can probably get up to 190 there in the 4.2 range. At pick 36, there we go, with the Washington Commanders. Drafted Jaden Daniels in round 1. Going to be going after a tackle here in round 2, and that is going to be Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. Right tackle, developmental, randomly didn't start the last game there at Oklahoma. Don't know what happened there, but it is what it is. Ended up declaring, which is a big surprise to me, but again, who am I to judge? You end up being able to draft a star tackle here because this team needs multiple tackles, and Tyler Guyton is the right choice. At pick 37, another team that I think Tyler Guyton would have been a very nice selection for, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, who end up selecting the Malik Neighbors in round number 1. Here in round number 2, we are going to be going after that corner 2 spot. I don't think there's any other valuable enough position, maybe defensive interior, for me to get excited about. And you got Quinyon Mitchell here, who's a ball hawk. You got TJ Tampa, who's just super consistent. You got Kalen King here, who is very versatile. I have Kalen King actually as my number 18 player in this class. I love TJ Tampa. I love Quinyon Mitchell. I love Kalen King. Can't go wrong. I'm going to go after the 6'2", 200-pound consistent TJ Tampa, though. You just want to make sure your corner 2 is not someone who is a liability. TJ Tampa has been reliable for the past couple years. At pick number 38 for the Tennessee Titans, safety, actually underrated need. I think this could be a great opportunity for Cam Kitchens to come in and essentially replace where Kevin Byard was. And, the value is there. The value is right. So I do think that could be a smart move for a new organization. You start out with a good tackle like Joe Alt, then you take a swing on a falling star in Cam Kitchens. He's very smart. He does make big plays. Someone who I would like to have on my team. Other players of note, I could go Xavier Legette here. Last time they took a 6'3", like 230-pound speedster, even though he didn't end up being a speedster in Traylon Burks, doesn't really fully worked out. Nah, let's get him. Xavier Legette. I love Xavier Legette. He's going to be a great asset there for the Titans. Would have been a great asset there for the Giants as well, but it is what it is. The Titans end up getting Xavier Legette and Joe Alt. At pick 39, the Giants are on the board, and they somehow stole Drake Maye. It's kind of a crazy one, but, again, crazy things happen in the draft. I would say that the next move is probably a wide receiver. And you got A.D. Mitchell here, who's great. You got Jalen Polk, who's great. You got Johnny Wilson, who is great. I think you can take any of these players and be very, very happy. You could honestly go after offensive line. You could just test out Karan Amajaje to be a right tackle, similar to what you did with Matt Peart back in the day. I miss Matt Peart. I do. But regardless, I am going to go for the wide receiver route. And I'm actually going to go Devontae Walker. I like pairing up Drake Maye and Devontae Walker. What can I say? And he's 6'2", 200 pounds. Great build. He can complement Jalen Hyatt very well for the long run. So you end up getting a great combination. Tez as well as Drake Maye. So Patriots fans, you don't get the curse this time. The New York Giants end up getting it as a blessing. Pick number 40 for the Washington Commanders. So, I could even go Troy Fautanu here. I honestly could. Edge rusher is a big issue for him, and I have actually gone Chris Braswell for him many times. I think a sneaky player to go after actually is Javon Solomon or Adisa Isaac. I'm curious what Javon's size is because he was phenomenal this year. 245, so he's on the smaller side. That's why he bends so well. He's a very fun player to watch. I don't know why it randomly selected all those positions, but PFF is going to PFF. Like other guys to note. My number 26 player, Xavier Thomas, really big fan of him. Got to give a shout out to my boy here, Brendan Jackson, friend of the show. He'll be back on very soon, and we're going to see him there in Mobile. So very excited for that. That's pretty much a $600 investment minimum for me. So hopefully y'all love that because it is what it is. We're going Troy Fautanu though. We got our right tackle of the future there in Tyler Guyton. Then we got our left tackle, probably going to end up being a guard, but we got another superstar first-round quality offensive lineman here in Troy Fautanu. Could have went that way for the Giants, but I do think that Drake Maye will say, hey, give me my Tez Walker, and I can be happy with another interior offensive lineman later on. At pick 41, the Green Bay Packers are back. Already selected a star safety, so RIP to the Cam Kitchens train in Cooper DeJean. Looking at another position to go after, I love the idea of just going secondary, and we're going Quinyon Mitchell here out of Toledo, used to the cold weather, and what I really love most about him is that he's a ball hawk, so you're going to be getting those ball skills right away, and it's just a great player to develop behind Jair Alexander. Very fun player to watch. At pick 42 for the Minnesota Vikings, so went after an edge rusher in round number 1. In Leatu Latu. We're going to go J.J. McCarthy here for them in round number 2. He declared for the draft, which means he's comfortable with his draft position. Most of the time, quarterbacks who are given a round 2 grade won't usually come out, but it is what it is. By the way, killer move. I actually have hazelnut cold brew coffee concentrate mixed with a Fairlife protein shake. God tier. So I have a bit of a sore throat. It helps out with that. At pick number 43, though, for Chicago, this was part of that Justin Fields trade. We ended up going after Romo Dunze in round number 1, as well as Caleb Williams. Chris Braswell's here. We could go Cam Kitchens, because I know y'all have been talking about that. Could even go a center here as well. But in a thin edge class, I think Chris Braswell would be the selection to pair up there with Montez Sweat. At pick 44, the Vegas Raiders went after Bo Nix. I already know I'm already hearing the complaints about that, but it is what it is. I love you guys. Just wait until the Senior Bowl. Maybe I'll be wrong, but then you can taunt me all you like. I think this team should be looking at corner, and you got Kalen King here, who's going to be a dog. I love his run support ability as well. I like Ennis Rakestraw. I just need to give him a full eval. I just got to be honest. I haven't given him a full eval yet. A defensive interior as well. And I think round 3 defense interior might be a little bit easier to swallow, than going after a really good corner at this at this point. There we go. Now we're dying. So Kalen King is going to be the selection here. You can also play slot if you need him to, but 5'11", 190 pounds, great run support, a top 20 player. So you end up getting really good value there as well. At pick 45, the Saints are back. This is going to be Cam Kitchens. I'm just going to take him right now, but we'll discuss it in a second. Got Brock Bowers in the first round, just did BPA both times. Cam Kitchens is phenomenal. You have both of your veteran safeties with 1 year left on their contract. Maybe one of them gets cut in this situation. At pick 46 for the Indianapolis Colts, we ended up targeting, what do we do? What do we do in round number 1? We went after an edge rusher, didn't we? Because I remember saying I owed it to y'all. Braylon Trice, hello. I already know I'm going to get crap for that because not many people love Braylon the way I do, but it's okay. I'm going to weather the storm because I love you guys, and I'm going to give you the best players. A.D. Mitchell is a perfect combo with Michael Pittman Jr., by the way. Really good player. Great after the catch as well. Fluid mover. To me, I know that a lot of my Colts fans have been dying for that as well. Going to give you all the fixins that you've been asking for. At pick 47 for the New York Giants. So we've gone after Drake Maye as well as his compatriot, his comrade in Devontae Walker. Would love to potentially test out that Karan Ahmad move, but you'd really have to be moving him to tackle and then saying screw you to Evan Neal. I actually might go Jackson Powers Johnson and move him to guard, but I'm actually going to go after the player who I have. I still need to officially grade Jackson Powers Johnson, give him a grade, but we're going to go Christian Haynes here out of Connecticut. Super athlete. They already went to Connecticut once before and got a pretty solid offensive lineman in Matt Peart. They're going to go again and get an even better one in Christian Haynes. It's just going offense, offense, offense at this moment because you're going to be going balls to the wall with Mr. Maye. At pick 48 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, another team that could have used Christian Haynes, but I don't think you're going to cry a river if you end up getting Jackson Powers Johnson to play interior offensive line for you when paired up with Kool-Aid McKinstry. So double checking that we did Kool-Aid, but yes, Jacksonville goes Jackson Powers Johnson as well as Kool-Aid McKinstry. At pick 49 for the Cincinnati Bengals, I want to take a quick peek at the edge rushers. Round 1 went after Amarius Mims to tell the Steelers to screw off. And, looking at the edge rushers that fit their larger profile, because as much as I want to go after my boy here in Xavier Thomas and pair him back up with his beloved former teammate Myles Murphy, it doesn't fit. I've tried to talk with my Bengals creators out there. Shout out to Parker Blake. I do know he watches some of these, so shout out to you, my friend. Feel free to go show some love to them as well. There's just not really a player in here that I trust to be of that 265 plus pound frame. So unfortunately, that dream dies there. I would say wide receiver could be a very sneaky position to target with Tyler Boyd most likely being gone. You got Xavier Worthy, Jermaine Burton, and Ladd McConkey here. All three of those guys are excellent weapons for replacing that role. Jalen Polk could be great in terms of replacing if you end up not wanting to keep T. Higgins for the long run. So a lot of really good options. I do think you could be going also for defensive interior. You got Chris Jenkins here as well as Rook Arroyo. And I have both Chris as well as Rook within my top 40. Top 35. As y'all can see right here, 31 to 33 are all defensive interiors, all different. And it's Chris Jenkins, then Tavondre, and then Rook. So you can't go wrong. I'm going to go with the chemistry here. We're going to go Rook Arroyo. Feels very similar to what they did with Zach Carter. And you're going to get the better version of Zach Carter there. At pick 50 for the Philadelphia Eagles, they went after Terrion Arnold in round 1. I can already hear the complaints on that one, but that's only from one particular person, Marina. I do know it's you, and I can guarantee you I'll bet $10 that it's going to be a comment about a third string corner. But it is what it is. It's all love here. All love. I do think wide receiver has pushed up in terms of the priority list. And you could go actually after Jermaine Burton, Xavier Worthy, or Ladd McConkey for that role. I love Jalen Polk, though. This team's actually starting to get a little bit more difficult to draft for since Lane did say he has a couple more years in him. It is what it is. Kalen Bullock could be a sneaky player here for that safety 3 role as well. They just have that second round pick that will be used on a linebacker. I know it. I could go Karan here, though. Like, even with Lane saying that, you could go Karan and just develop him for quite a few years. It's a tough team to draft for now. It really is a tough team. I think Jatavian Sanders is a dark horse pick here. When Brett Selleck was 28, they ended up drafting Ertz. When Ertz was 28, they ended up drafting Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert just turned 28. They could be in the market for Jatavian Sanders, but I think they like more of a tight end that can block. So it could be interesting, but I do want to theorize and get some feedback on Johnny Wilson. He can play in the slot. He's not going to be the speed burner that you're looking for, but he could be that longer-term tight end that you look for because he's actually a pretty damn solid blocker as well. I definitely want to float that idea out there because, again, y'all's feedback is very crucial to the show. As much as I like to tease y'all, I do love y'all. And, it is what it is. So, I definitely want to throw those ideas out there. I am going to... I might go after linebacker first because I do see 2 teams in here that are going to be lurking for a linebacker. So, of course, PFF doesn't know how to separate the filter positions from me highlighting somewhere else. It is what it is. We're going to go Junior Colson out of Michigan. A lot of people are not as high on Junior as I am, but he's one of the few 240-plus pound linebackers in the class. He's a true Mike, and this team has a ton of one-year contracts expiring for that linebacking core. You need help. It's been a position that you should have fixed by just bringing back TJ Edwards and getting maybe one more and having him, Nakobe Dean, and one more linebacker do a very good job, but you didn't. And that's what happens. So you get Junior Colson as well as Terry and Arnold. For the Rams here at pick 51, you could go defensive interior. We've already gone after edge rusher. I do like the idea of going corner for this team as well. I do still have Dwight McLaughlin out of Arkansas, who's a dark horse pick, but I do want to show some more respect to my buddy here in Ennis Rakestraw. 6 foot, 190 pounds. He's been very, very dynamic. And the Rams are a team that are not really afraid of the name on the side of the helmet, even though Missouri has been a top tier defense. I want to change things up a little bit. I haven't been showing respect to Ennis. I'm going to show respect to him right now. At pick 52 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, interior offensive line, probably the next route I would want to go. You do have Cooper Beebe here, as well as Cedric Van Pran. Having that, connection with Broderick Jones and Cedric Van Pran very much is a priority on my list. Corner 2, also a really high priority, but Jabbar Muhammad, I thought, returned to school. You got to check out that one. I'm pretty sure he did, which is RIP, but, it is what it is. I would say linebacker, center, tackle, which we already drafted JC Latham. And then, again, that corner 2 spot is kind of key for me. So I'm going to actually go after Cedric Van Pran. We're getting that instant connection there out of Georgia. At pick 53 for the Dolphins, we already drafted a left tackle in Jordan Morgan, who will be playing defensive interior for us. We are actually going to go after Jatavian Sanders here out of Texas. Versatile tight end piece. I do think we could actually use both of those picks to end up getting Brock Bowers tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. At pick 54 for the Philadelphia Eagles, went linebacker, we went corner. I do think edge rusher is also on their short list of positions to go. They just need to be sizable enough. Adisa Isaac's a good player, and he is in the Pennsylvania area. With all the old heads kind of just coming back, it is not out of the question for them to go after an edge rusher. And I do think the value is starting to make sense. It's between Adisa and Xavier Thomas. And I do think Adisa's field awareness is spectacular. And maybe you can develop the rest of the abilities from there. And so, got to show some love for our boy Adisa here, Adisa Isaac out of Penn State. At pick 55 for the Cleveland Browns, you got Leonard Taylor, the third here. I'm going to select him in a heartbeat. Just a ton of upside. And for me, when you get to have someone with so much untapped potential get paired up with Myles Garrett, I would just love to see what he could become. So, very excited for that. Pick number 56 for the Cowboys went after a star center in the first. And this is a great spot to go a left tackle here in Karan Ahmad-Jajeh. I did not think he was going to be here. You got Graham Barton, who technically could place left tackle, but we're not going to make him do that. Karan needs a year to develop. So you can have Tyron Smith there for a year and have Karan develop for a year. He'll be ready by the season. He just had a quad tear. This is a perfect spot for him. He is very developmental, but he's a top tier athlete. And I think this would be as good of a pick as you could ask for. Like, honestly, Graham Barton and Karan, that's a dynamic duo that you could just dream for with your first 2 picks. At pick 57 for the Green Bay Packers, we've gone after 2 defensive backs. Hard to pass on Chris Jenkins at this point, just add another defender. But, this team is just really good. I just don't know what to say. It's a good team. Looking at other positions, linebacker. That's the way that y'all been telling me to go, and it hasn't failed me. You linebackers have been relatively unreliable. I love the Defwan Olafo. Only issue is he is kind of on the smaller side. A little bit. But he's a very good player. And, 6'1", 236. To be fair, it's bigger than Edgerrin Cooper and Jeremiah Trotter. Peyton Wilson has injury issues. Doesn't really make sense. So you're down to Tommy Eichenberg, which I do like Tommy. I think Tommy would be a good fit. Curtis Jacobs, who is in 6'1", 236 as well. Or he might be 238. But you're looking at, if you're trying to find someone who could be a Mike linebacker on your team, I do think it's Tommy. And you see the drop off. That's the big issue is why did you end up not playing as well? The whole entire team didn't play as well, to be fair. But this is another one of those guys where if you see the potential, which I do with Tommy, this actually might be an excellent steal for a first-round quality linebacker who just had a bad year. So Tommy's going to be coming in. Devondre Campbell's just been relatively inconsistent in terms of health. So this is just adding another guy who is used to the elements being able to be a healthy shoe-in. At pick 58 for the Buccaneers, we went after Nate Wiggins in round number 1. We did a lot of different things today, and I like that. It's nice to have a little bit of a shift in terms of the overall drafting philosophy. But, interior offensive line kind of is king. I love Cooper Beebe. I don't really need to say much more than that. Like, Cooper Beebe is proper value. So we're going to go Cooper Beebe out of K-State. Also kind of feels like a Buccaneer. So shout out to Baker. Also, again, why I am wearing a headband if you didn't pay attention to the first part of the video, which is, again, understandable. You got Chris Jenkins here. That kind of hurts my soul because I do think he complements very, very well to what you'd be looking for with Tavondre Sweat. But I have an even better idea. I want a tight end or a wide receiver. Why not get both? Johnny Wilson's a top 25 player for me, and he's going to end up being a star boundary receiver or a really good tight end. So this is a team that in the future will be looking for both. Win-win. At pick 60 for the KC Chiefs, I'm going to be looking at Chris Jenkins here. I'm going to pull the trigger right away. You got Brian Thomas in round number 1. So now you get Chris Jenkins here in round number 2. He's a top 32 player for me. He's number 31 on my board. Should have went earlier, but didn't. It is what it is. So Kansas City ends up killing this draft. At pick 61 for the Buffalo Bills, we already went after a safety in Tyler Nubin. Could go after another one in Kalen Bulk because I do think they complement each other. But wide receiver 2 with Jalen Polk, hard to say no to. 6'2", 204 pounds, dynamic after the catch. Hard to say no when you can have that big of an upgrade. At pick 62 for the Detroit Lions, we went after an edge rusher in Jonah Ellis, who is a top 30 player on my board. Now, corner, probably the next position I go after. I do have one who is left on the board in Dwight McLaughlin, who I doubt was actually added to this. Fingers crossed. Of course, he's not. Thanks, PFF. That's going to be the guy who I probably want to go for. Other positions, I do think if Jalen Polk were still on the board, someone who I think I could see this team going after. You've got Malachi Corley. I think a third-round selection would be great for him. Jacob Cowing, too much of a conflict there with ARSB. Brennan Rice, I think I haven't studied him fully in depth, if I'm going to be blunt, but a good player nonetheless. Defensive interior-wise, Brandon Dorless, Mekhi Wingo, both really solid options. But Mason Smith, that's somebody who I would be really, really intrigued with targeting for this team, especially if he's there in round number 3. So lots of great routes to go. I'm going to go Dwight McLaughlin, my number 24 player in the class. Showing some love here to Max Melton, but he's a placeholder there for Dwight McLaughlin out of Arkansas, corner. Pick number 63 for the Niners. We went after Kingsley Sua-Mata'ea in round number 1. Here in round number 2. Could see them go actually after another tackle. Could see them go Javon Foster and fully develop him as an understudy left tackle. I think Javon Foster comps very similarly to what I saw with Trent Williams, but significantly worse. He does have some of those traits though. And back when he was one of my tackle ones last year, I think that it might be worth taking the swing on. So we're going to have an instant impact at right tackle with Kingsley with a developmental left tackle here in Javon Foster. That feels very AlexCBarbour-ish, which, that's my name for the record. It feels very similar to what I would do versus maybe what's fully realistic, but that's also part of the fun of doing these mock drafts is that we can sometimes throw in our little, taste testers of what we would do. At pick number 64 and ending off the draft, we have the Ravens who drafted Troy Franklin around number 1. For this selection, I could see them going after an offensive tackle as well, which is also why I was inclined to do it there for the Niners. Interior offensive line-wise, it does get a little bit worse. It does. I'm very excited to see Bo Limmer in person because I think he's going to be great, but he very well could end up flopping, so RIP to that. Defensive interior, I could see Brandon Dorless being a good fit, but I'm actually going to take another swing here. We're going to take one more swing, and it's going to be on Mason Smith. Did not think he would declare, and he did. So I think there might be some round 2 rumors for him, and it's going to be at the end of round 2. Tons and tons of untapped potential right there. He should be 6'6", 300 as an interior defensive lineman. He just needs to get into shape, and this team could be the team to get him there. So Mason Smith ends up being the sneaky selection there at 64. Just again, Like I've seen some moves that he's made that not many defensive players can make coming out of the draft. So needs to be more consistent, but it is what it is. Thank you so much for watching and showing me the love that you always do. See you on the far side. Peace.